Hey everyone, this is Kenlin and welcome back to my channel. This is the week of October 6th through the 13th. It's a big week astrologically, energetically, and it's preparing us for what's to come in 2025. So I'm going to lay out a few things astrologically, but also weave in maybe some gene keys and a call to action. What's our call to action for this week? So, as I'm feeling into the energy and the shifts in the energy from the eclipse, it's clear to me we are on a new timeline. And you might be struggling to keep up with that new timeline. It may be really disoriented that we're on a new timeline. And what I mean by that is that the old is being sloughed off. And that could be even things that you're attached to and that you like and enjoy. I mean, if we look at the towns in the southeast part of the United States, we love so many of those places and the peoples and the land and the animals, and literally it's being wiped away. So that's a metaphor for the type of change that we're in, the type of upheaval that we're in right now. And each one of us is experiencing it in our own way. And we send prayers and donations and supplies and love and energetic support to the people who are literally dealing with upheaval of all kinds. I'm very present to that today because I'm filming this on the anniversary of the beginning of the war between Israel and Hamas. And so I'm just present that there's just tons of upheaval, and it's not new. The world has lived in cycles and cycles of upheaval. And that's because we live in polarity and we have contrast, and we're here to learn and evolve in our consciousness. And so that's why you're here, chances are. That's why I'm doing this. So, our call to action is to accept our new timeline. And what I mean by that isn't exactly like Saturn, Chronos, linear time. What I mean by that is your new marching orders and what you're here to do, who you're here to be. We're going to experience that the result of the eclipses took away things that we might even be surprised that they're gone. Like you may have no taste for it anymore. Say you were doing a podcast and it was focused on something, and then you realized, I actually don't want to do it anymore. What if you are a coach and you're coaching on a particular problem that you solve, and you're realizing that you have outgrown the problem that you've been solving, that you're actually in a whole different conversation, and it's scary. And you're like, well, if I do that, then what happens to my current clients? What happens to my business? What happens to my money? That's just an example. Apply this to your own life. That's what I mean by timeline shifts. We have been shifted into new timelines. Maybe there's a way that you followed your bliss and said, or you followed your intuition and it said, take a move to this particular place. And in that place, things just started to unfold. And you realize, oh my goddess, I'm on a trajectory in this new place that I was never on before. And your job now is to keep up with the fact that you're on a new timeline. And keeping up really means that we have to let go of the things that don't fit in that new timeline. And I don't know about you, but I get attached to certain things. And especially if I built them and spent money on them, I'm like, no, we have to somehow figure out how that goes forward. And the answer is it may not. So keeping up with timelines is going to be a big one. How do we do that? How do we do that authentically? And here is the touchstone for you and for me. And that is to come back to what's true for you. This is going to be our navigational system. There's no other way we're going to be able to navigate because things in the outer world are going to shift super fast. And I'm going to talk about that in this transmission, but we're going to build on that in future ones because this is a huge theme. Imagine if you lived in a dimensional reality where things changed all the time. If you've ever been in a medicine journey, that's what happens because we're not in a body in those medicine journeys. So reality can shape shift constantly. We're going to come closer to that in our 3D life than we've ever been before. I think that's freaky. And I don't even know what it means, but I'm preparing my consciousness for it. So, what's the touchstone to move our way through? That's going to be an inner authenticity. We're not going to be able to afford to not be authentic. We're not going to be able to afford it. It's going to have less cost, and I mean transaction cost, maybe financial as well, but less cost if we follow what is true and we let go of what's not. And for those of us who have fixed signs, either rising sign, sun sign, moon sign, the fixed signs, you don't want to do that. God bless us. I have a fixed sign in my rising, and then I have mutables. So my mutable and my fixed are always having wars with each other because, of course, the mutables like change. The cardinals like to initiate. The fixed, they don't want any change. Stop. And it's nice to have all of those energies because it creates fluid and grounding. If you're straight mutable, then you have a hard time being grounded. If you're straight fixed, you have a hard time changing. And right now, you might be having a really hard time. So let me present 3 things in astrology, and also let's weave in a little bit of the gene keys from gene key 48 into 57 that gives us access to clarity through our intuition. And it's really a psychic channel. So let's open up the doors of perception as I move through the rest of this transmission. And the shadow is this fear of the future. We all have this because it's frigging existentially unknowable. And our psyches don't like that because we could die, we could be annihilated. So our higher self, our soul gets to walk our little small self off the ledge and say, it's okay because who you really are is not going to die. And therefore, getting anchored on the inside to something different than the chaos around will open us up to a clarity, even a boldness, because we need boldness right now. We really do. North Node in Aries calling for boldness, calling for that authenticity to strike out as a leader on your own path. This is not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. Chances are, if you're listening to this, you are strong. You have it in you because you're hearing this message that's resonating with your own soul. So I wrote down, be the architect of your life. It's from in here. It's from your authenticity. It's not from here of, oh, well, I want to win the lottery. I want to be really famous. Like that stuff is bullshit, really. It means nothing. Come in here to what's really true for you. Maybe what's really true for you is to have a sanctuary with dogs. I mean, that's okay. I mean, that's more than okay. It's how we fit all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's what elevates the frequency. If you and I are doing that thing that's in that new timeline that's really serving us, and we've let go of any thoughts or ideas about it, like, oh, that's not that cool. I have to pick up poop all day. Well, maybe picking up poop is like part of your service to the collective. I'm going to listen to this and go, okay. But really, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Why not? Because we're chopping wood and carrying water, as the Buddhists say. This game is different than Instagram, right? So let's tune into the heart space that really knows the truth of something, rather than imposing ideas from a collective that's in a shadow frequency of fear and masking it. I mean, right? Okay, so be the architect of your own life. And that starts with tuning into what's true, what's on your new timeline, what's off your new timeline. And then I want to read a quote from Molly McCord, who is an astrologer, who said, "The endings are real. There isn't even energy for some parts of your life anymore." That's what I mean by this timeline shift. There's no more energy. If you're procrastinating, if it's a slog, then that means there's no more energy for it. And that gets to be let go of, so that whatever is true, and if you turn in, it's don't fill it with your panicked mind. Fill it with tuning in. All right, so enough said about that. The big energies this week, and they're big, is Jupiter's going retrograde on October 9th, but he forms a sextile to Chiron, also retrograde. So Chiron is in Aries, and some of you who are around the age of 49, 50, 51 could be in your Chiron return. So that's a real healing time. So there's a positive energy between Chiron, the healer, and Jupiter in Gemini. So as they are making connection, you're going to be able to revisit some territory around your healing. So the fact that you've been doing healing work has enabled you to jump timelines. Isn't that awesome? So you're here. So I think what this transit is asking us is to honor the healing that has made your life here and now possible. So then we have this grand water trine that I mentioned last week with the new moon and the eclipse. And this water trine, which is with Venus in Scorpio, Mars in Cancer, and Saturn in Pisces. So we have the anchor of Saturn. Saturn is the teacher, the lord of karma. We have to pay our dues here. That's what this Earth School is about. But we also have the masculine and feminine in harmony, in balance. Libra loves that balance because we've been asking ourselves, what is out of balance? And that Saturn is able to make the changes necessary, be the architect of your own life to come back into a true balance, a true balance. So if we look at Venus, she is our feminine, the receiving. And then Mars, the masculine, the action. Look at your life in terms of, are you overdoing? Are you underdoing? Are you giving more than you're receiving? Are you receiving and you're not giving? Those are the questions to ask for that Libra balance, as the sun is still in Libra right now. And we just went through that Libra eclipse. And Saturn will help you course correct to become more authentic. Because when we experience harmony, that's probably a better word than balance, because balance might mean some equation that is just for a second, and then we're off balance, because life is like that. And it's like trying to surf or paddleboard on the water. We're really using the muscles in our feet, the small, tiny muscles and bones to keep us stable. It's an art form that we're engaged in the micro every day. So that water trine is going to help us move and course correct for balance. All of this is preparing us for October 17th and the full moon in Aries, which is a whopper because we have a cardinal grand cross happening. Just very intense energy. There's Aries, the female version of Mars, who is quite pissed off. She's the divine feminine in rage because of the patriarchy. So here's a good time to anchor in the new timeline. Overall, this is a very destabilizing time, but because it's destabilizing, it's going to give you the opportunity to change. If everything were so stable, it'd be really hard to upset the apple cart. but things are already upset. The apple cart is already thrown off. So now is our opportunity to, okay, now that things are tumultuous and in disarray, I get to shift what I want to do. I feel called to do this now. I don't know how it's going to work out, but that's what I feel called to do. It's easier to make those changes. And then I think the last thing to say about this is what's happening on October 11th. And I'm going to have to do another video on this because there's just no way to overstate the importance of this moment. That is Pluto stationing direct in Capricorn at the final degrees of Capricorn. It closes out an era. Everyone born up to that moment will have some familiarity, even if it's for like a second, of Pluto in Capricorn. But once those babies are born and we step over on November 19th, we are complete with Pluto in Capricorn. It literally closes out an era and we begin a new era. And that's part of the shift, as well as the signs are changing. So we have Neptune and Saturn changing signs, Uranus changing signs in 2025 and 2026. Lots and lots of air energy. Fire is the Aries, and that's where Saturn's going to go. Uranus is going to go into Gemini, air. Pluto is in Aquarius, air. And Neptune will go into Aries, fire. Just a game changer in the energy signature of what we've been living with. It's something that's new for us. And that is how the wildfire spread of AI will happen. Plus Uranus and Pluto being in the signs of AI will bring that home even more. So it's a very, very intense time. I think existentially we can all feel like, holy shit, are we going to make it kind of feeling? And that may produce so much unease, gene key 57, anxiety, fear of the future. But again, we come back to our call to action because that stuff we have no control over. The planets will shift. The energy signature will shift. Stuff will happen because stuff happens here. And the only question is, who are you going to be inside of all of that? That's really what I call spiritual leadership. So I'm going to end there because there's so much to say that it merits a new video, but I hope that you understand for this week how you can get alongside of the new timeline that's being asked of you. And so let's gather all the positive energy that we have generated here and send it out. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. Thank you.